Hello everyone, welcome to Vab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. Thank you for clicking on this video. If this is your first time on my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you. In this video, we're going to be learning how to sew this beautiful double peplum blouse with shawl collar. In my previous video, I showed us how to draft and cut this blouse. So in this video, we're going to be stitching our pieces together to achieve this outcome. So meaning that this is the sewing video. So just in case you haven't seen the drafting and cutting video, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box. It will be advisable for you to watch it so that you can actually understand how we got to this point. So back to this video. In this video, you're going to be learning you're not just going to be learning how to stitch our pieces together, but we're also going to be learning how to neatly sew this blouse to achieve this neat inseam finishing. So I hope this is something you're interested in learning. Kindly stay tuned while we get right into the video. Thank you. Now it's time for us to stitch the upper bodice. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll pick the main fabric. That's the one with the pad is the main fabric. And this is also the one with the pad here, main fabric. So you can see. So I'm going to bring the side piece. I'll place this side piece over this point like this. Can you see that? I'll make sure that the underboss point, that's why we have this notch here. We want to make sure that the underboss points are aligning. So I'm going to stitch it like this all the way to this end. I'll stitch it this way. I'll repeat the same thing for this side. I'll place it making sure that the underboss points are aligning here, and then I'll stitch on half inch all the way to this end. I'll repeat the same thing for my linings also, and then I'll come back and show us the next thing to do. I've stitched the crinoline to the lining, and I've also stitched the main fabric and the lining together. This is what I have. This is the shorter peplum. And see, now because we have stitched our crinoline to it, we have this wavy effect. Can you see what it looks like here? So I'll also go ahead and top stitch it. Then for the longer lining, that's for the longer peplum, I only stitched my crinoline to the lining itself. I didn't go ahead to use the peplum to turn it because we're going to be doing inseam sewing with this shawl collar top. So that is why I didn't stitch the lining to the main fabric. So I'm going to show us what to do with this later. And then let me bring in the upper bodice. So this is the upper bodice. This is our back piece. You can see that I stitched my dart on this side and I repeated the same thing on this side. So you can see these are zip allowance. I've sewn the zip allowance by 3 inches downwards. As I sewed by 3 inches from the neckline, I came down by 3 inches, and that's where the stitch stopped. So this is where I'm going to have my zipper running from. Remember, we're going to have a shawl collar, so our zipper cannot get to the neckline. I also repeated the same thing on the main fabric. I sewed by 3 inches down from the neckline, and you can see I've also stitched my darts on both sides. And then for the front pieces, I've stitched the center piece to the side piece, and you can see that I've also ironed the bust area. You can see I used my paper stitch to keep it opened, and this is what I have here on this side. I repeated the same thing also here on this side, and I did the same thing on my lining and fabric. So you can see that this is main fabric and then this is lining here. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to join the neckline together. So at this point, can you see this is actually where our neckline is? So this is our shawl collar area. So I'm going to join this on half of an inch. You see, this is what I want to achieve so that we can have our neckline together. So I'm going to join the shawl area by half of an inch here. this way, half inch. I'll repeat the same thing on the lining also. I'll place it right side facing right side, and then I will join them together also this way. And then I'll show us how to stitch main fabric to main fabric, lining to lining. That's for the back piece. I'll come back and show us that. So I've joined the collar on half inch like I said I was going to do, and I went ahead to press it open, and I repeated the same thing for the lining, and this is what I have. So now I'm going to turn the fabric to the right side. So this is now our center here, this is the middle here. So I'm going to bring this, I'll bring in my back piece. This is our center back. The center back and the center front for the front must match up like this. Can you see? This is our neckline. This is the center front, and this is also the center back. So I'm going to place them like this. Can you see lining? That's main fabric and main fabric. So I'm going to place them center against center. You must make sure that they are all matching up like this, because this place where we have the joining must be a straight line. Can you see? I'm going to stitch this on half of an inch. I'm going to stitch it on half inch this way. Take it this way to the shoulder like this. Let me repeat myself. I'm going to stitch on half inch this way, take it this way all the way to the front shoulder here like this, and I'll repeat the same thing on this side. I'll stitch it like this all the way to this side. Can you see that? So I'll go and stitch that and come back and show us. I'm going to repeat the same thing for the lining also. I've joined the neckline of my shawl collar, and see, this is the lining, and then I went ahead to notch at this curved point. This is where the back neckline stops. So this is the width of the neckline. You can see I notched this part, and I also notched this part, and this is our shoulder. Can you see? This is what it looks like on the right side of the lining. So, and this is our main fabric also. I went ahead to join them together. I repeated the same thing. I notched the sharp points. I notched it so that it can relax. So you can see this is our back and this is the front. So you can see that my center line, the center front and the center back, you can see that the lines are aligning. So you can see what our shawl collar is already becoming. Can you see? This is what we want to achieve. Can you see? So this is what we are almost there. Can you see that? So now the next thing we are going to do now, I'm going to press the seam lines open. I'm going to press these seam lines open. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my fabric. This is my fabric. You can see how I placed it open. And then I'll go ahead and place the lining, right side of the lining facing right side of the fabric. You want to make sure that these points where we joined it together are aligning. So I'm going to place them like this and pin it. Can you see? So after pinning it, I'm going to now align this part. You see? I'll pin this side. I'll pin this part also. So you can see I'm going to pin this side also like this. I want to make sure that everything is matching up well. You see? So this part is a very sensitive part because this has to be at all the points here. These 2 points must align. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and stitch on half inch from here down to this side. So to avoid misalignment, you can stitch from here this way and then come back and stitch from here this way. So I'll do that and press it open, as well as pressing open my neckline. Then I'll come back and show us the next thing to do. So I've joined the shawl collar, and you can see this is what I have. This is our main fabric and this is the lining. You can see I've pressed my seam line open. So I'm going to flip it this way now so that we can see what we have. So you can see that my stitches are lining. It's very important. I've been emphasizing on it. It's very important. So I also ironed my neck seam lines open. I did the same thing here. So So I'm going to press this side now after ironing my seam line open. So I'm going to go ahead now and press it closed like this. Pressing my shawl collar, this is what I have. Can you see what it's looking like already? You see? So now I'm going to bring in my hemming gum. I want to use my hemming gum to seal up this place. That's these two together to hold them in place. I don't want it to I don't want to see something like this. Can you see? I don't want it to be wobbling. So I'm just going to use my hemming gum to secure it. This is very optional. If you don't want to do that, you can ignore this part. So I'm going to place my hemming gum in between the lining and the fabric, just here. And my hemming gum is just a 1 inch hemming gum, so it's just going to just be around this area. So I'm going to place it and then press it again and then show us the next thing to do. After ironing the shawl collar with my hemming gum, can you see how it looks? So now you can see that this is thin and looking sharp. You don't want it to be too bulky around here. So I'm actually going to advise that you use hemming gum. So this will keep it in place, or you top stitch it. But top stitching means that the stitch will be showing outside. It's either you are top stitching, if you are top stitching, you top stitch to the right side, that's to the main fabric, so that when you fold this like this, the stitch will be hiding here. But I prefer to use my hemming gum so that it's seamless. Okay, so the next thing now I'm going to do is to join the neckline together. You can see that this is our neckline for the main fabric and this is the neckline for the lining. You don't want to leave them separate, so you're going to hold them like this. I'm going to hold them like this together, and then I will stitch only on the neckline, not on the shoulder, as I'm just going to be stitching only this part, which is the neckline. Only this part, which is the neckline. So you can see I'm not going to touch the shoulders. I'll just stitch the neckline together. This is so that they are intact, so that it's no longer separate, because this is what will happen if it is separate. The collar will be opening, so you want the collar to be held together. You don't want it to be opening around here. So that's why I'm going to stitch it. So I'll stitch it and come back and show us how to shape the dress so that we can, and the top, so that we can fix our peplum. After stitching my neckline together, so you can see that the lining and the fabric now have been joined together. So my shawl collar will no longer be opened from this side. Can you see? It's being held at the neckline now. Now is to shape the the blouse. I'll be shaping lining to lining, fabric to fabric. So before I do that, I'm going to reshape the armhole of this outfit. Remember that we made a printed armhole bustier and we had to extend it. So now I'm going to get the right shape. And you see, this is what our back armhole looks like. And you see that the front is coming outward as compared to the back, which is not supposed to be so. That's because of the extension we have. So I'll bring in my scissors and reshape the front armhole. Reshape the armhole of the front. Can you see? So this is the excess I have here. Remember that at this point we had already removed our 3/4 of an inch, so this is just the excess I need to trim out. So this is what the front armhole should look like. And you see, placing them together now, the back is now the one wider than the front, which is wider by 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to place this side, that's this front side, on the other front side, so that I can trace out exactly the same thing I have here. So I'll place them like this. And then I'll cut out this excess I have here. If you don't take out this excess, your armhole will be looking bulky, to be gaping at the side here, to be looking as if there's another bust here. So you want to make sure you remove that. I'll repeat the same thing on my lining. After shaping the armhole, after cutting out the armhole, now the next thing I'm going to do is to stitch the sides. I'm going to be sewing lining to lining, like I earlier told us, fabric to fabric. So this is my fabric, like this. I'm going to place it right side facing right side here. and then I'll stitch on the sewing allowance I have. So you can see I've already marked my sewing allowance, and this is it here. So let me pin it and show us the lining side. So then the lining, I'm going to pick the lining. This is the lining here, and this is the back lining. That's the front lining, and this is the back lining. So can you see? I also marked my seam allowance. I'm going to stitch on this side sewing allowance I added. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, and then come back and show us the next thing to do. After sewing my side seam, I went ahead to press my seam allowance open. I did the same thing for the lining. You want to press it open so that it's well relaxed. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to sew the shawl collar. So to sew our shawl collar, I'm going to place it like this. Lining facing lining. This is the right side now of my fabric. Can you see? This is the right side of the fabric. I'm going to place it over it like this. You want to make sure that you place it well so that this neckline here is aligned. You want to make sure that neckline is in the middle. So remember I added 2.5 inches when we were drafting as the allowance for our shawl collar, and I've used half inch to stitch this point, so I'm left with 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead now and mark that 2 inches. So from this center front now, so basically this is like the center front, this is the shawl collar allowance. So this is our original center front, that's 2 inches after the shawl collar allowance. So I'm going to mark 2 inches like this, 2 inches, can you see? And then I'll come down with a depth that's depending on how deep you want the neckline to be. So from this point, I'm going to come down with 8.5 inches. Can you see? I'm coming down 8.5 inches. So I'm going to mark this all the way to this point like this. So you can see that I'm taking it straight because it's supposed to be a straight line. Remember that this side of our shawl collar is wider than this side. I used 2.5 here and here I used 3.5. So you can see that here is wider. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and stitch on this line that I marked. Take note that this is on the right side. Okay, and then for the peplum, I'm going to stitch the shorter peplum and the longer peplum together, but you can see that the longer peplum does not have its own lining. This is because we are doing inseam sewing. So I'm going to stitch them together here on the waistline, and then I'll come back and show us the next thing to do. So I've stitched my shawl collar together, and this is what I have on the right side. So remember I said I was going to come down by 8 inches. I realized that that 8 inches was too high. It was around here. So I brought it down to about 12 inches. So this is what I did. You can see from here to here. So you can see this is 12.5. So this is so that it comes down low. This is where the bust point is, and this is where the opening of the center front, this is where it opened up to. So this depends on your preference, depending on what you want. So you can make it a little higher or you can make it low like I did here. So but I'm using 12.5 inches in this case, and this is what we have here in front. So now to sew the peplum to it, I'm going to bring in the lining first. So I'm going to place the lining on the wrong side. This is the bigger lining. I'm going to place it like this. Get the midpoint first. I'm going to place it right side of the lining. You can see this is the side with the crinoline, so automatically this is the wrong side. So I'll place it right side of the lining facing this way. So I'll place it this way and pin. Can you see? So I'm going to stitch the lining just with about from here, that this is the center. I'm going to stitch it up to this side like this, just before the side seam, just be 2 inches away from the side seam allowance. I'm going to stitch all three of them together. That's the upper part, the lining, and this part. Can you see that? That's the right side of the fabric, which is the main fabric, the lining, and then the peplum. That's the lining of the peplum. So I'm going to stitch it from this center to this point, some inches away from the side. I'll repeat the same thing here. I'll stitch it from this center also and stop about 2 inches away from the side seam. This is for the lining. So by the time I stop away from the side seam, then I'll go ahead and stitch that. I'm going to stitch and stop here. Let me explain it this way. So can you see where I pinned? I'm going to stitch and stop here. So when I stop here, I'll go ahead and stitch only the lining, lining to lining like this. Can you see? Lining to lining. And then I'll repeat the same thing. When I stop some inches away from the side seam, I will now go ahead and stitch just lining to lining this way, leaving this one. So I'll do that and come back and show us. I've stitched the lining to the fabric, and you can see this side I left this space. This is where my lining stopped here at the center. That's some inches away from my seam allowance, and the same thing here. And then I stitched the lining together. I did the same thing here also. So now I'll bring in the main fabric, that's the peplum. I've also notched the center front. So I'm going to place it right side of the peplum, facing the right side of the fabric. So you can see the shorter peplum here in front. So I'll pin it this way. So once I have the center matching up, the next thing I'm going to do is to pin all the way to this side. So now this is how I'm going to sew the main fabric. I'm going to stitch this way, making sure that my seam allowance is open. I'm going to stitch on 1/2 inch from this side, which is the 1/2 inch seam allowance I added to join the upper bodice and the peplum. I'm going to stitch on 1/2 inch all the way to this point. To this point, can you see? Just to this point where the lining stops here. I'll stitch the fabric to the fabric to fabric. I'll stitch on 1/2 inch all the way to this point and stop here. I'll repeat the same thing here. Lining and fabric to fabric like this, and then I will stitch on 1/2 inch, making sure that my seam allowance is open. You see? So I stitch it this way. So I'll stitch on 1/2 inch and stop at this point. So I'll repeat the same thing here like I earlier said. I'll stop at this point. Then the next thing I'm going to do, you can see that this side is still open. Then I'll come here and now pick the lining and the main fabric, and then I'll stitch from here all four of them together. I'll now stitch from here to this end where the stitch stopped here. I'm going to now stitch all four of them together. So basically, this is the side that is going to be left open. So by the time I pick all four of them, I'm going to close up any part that I have any open stitch that I couldn't stitch. So I'm just going to place them together and stitch it all the way to this side where the stitch stops here. So this center side, all four of them will be together. Then at the back area here, we're going to have lining separate and the main fabric separate. So I'll go and do that and come back and show. After joining the waistline, this is what I have. Can you see? So at this point, they are separated. Lining is separate from main fabric, and it's also separated from the side seam here. And see, and then at the center here, they are joined together. So the next thing now we're going to do is to sew the zipper. You see what it looks like on the inside. So you can see that the down part of the peplums, we have not joined them together. So the next thing now we're going to do is to sew a zipper like I earlier said, and I'll be sewing the zipper only to the main fabric. So here is my zipper. You can see that I have ironed my zip allowance. So I'm going to pin the zipper. So from the zipper allowance, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches. I'll use 1/2 inch to turn my lining. So I'm going to be left with 1 inch after turning the lining. So I'll open up this zip allowance that I have ironed. Can you see? So this is the crease line of my zip allowance. So I'll measure the 1.5 inches. You can see. So even 1 inch is fine. You can turn your zipper with the lining with half of an inch, and then you'll be left with half inch. But I'm using 1 inch. I like it. I like the effect that 1 inch gives me, that space in between. So I'll go ahead and pin on the crease line. You see? This is what my zipper will look like on this side. So you can see I have an excess here. I will always cut it out. This is where the zipper head will stop. It will stop away from these 3 inches I came down from the neckline. Remember that we came down by these 3 inches because of our shawl collar. So you can see our zipper is not getting to the neckline. This is where it's going to stop. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and stitch the zipper. So I'm done stitching my zipper, and this is what we have. You see, let me close it up so that we can see. So can you see? All the points are aligning. Can you see my second peplum? It's aligning. What I have here, the 1.5 inches, they are aligning. One is longer than the other. It's aligning at the waistline, and you can see where our zipper stops. So you can see how neatly fixed my zipper is. It came out really beautiful. And then I turned it to the wrong side like this. I went ahead to press it. It is very important to press your zipper when you are done fixing. It helps it to relax well, and all those issues of zipper eating cloth or biting cloth, as we popularly say, it will not happen when you press your zipper. You want everything to be neat, because as you can see, the zipper is just the zipper teeth you are seeing here. You are not seeing the cloth. Okay, so it's important for you to press your zipper. So just in case if you haven't been pressing your zipper, I will advise that you start pressing your zipper, and you will see a lot of difference. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the hem of the peplum. So to sew the hem of the peplum, I'm going to first get the midpoint of the peplum. That's for the lining. I'll hold it this way and get the midpoint. So here, and then I'll also get the midpoint of the main fabric. Hold it this way also. And get the center. Can you see? So this is now my center here. So I'll notch it. So having notched it, now the next thing I'm going to do is to turn the peplum. This is the lining here, right? So I'm going to place it this way. Where is the place I notched? That they are aligning. So once I've done that, I'm going to open my zipper like this. You can see it's an open zipper, so I can separate it now. I'll now bring my lining, place the lining on the wrong side. This is going to look a little twisted now. So I'm going to place the lining. This is the lining of this side. Can you see? This is the lining of this side. This is for this side, right? So I'm going to place it this way. I'm going to open up my fabric this way like this. Can you see? And then see the lining here. Can you see? So now I'm going to place the lining like this. So can you see now this part, the upper body is now in between them. So it will now look a little twisted. So I'm just going to start pinning now from the hem like this. Can you see? Right side of the fabric is facing the lining. So not the side with the crinoline. The side that is not with the crinoline is the part that is now facing the fabric. So can you see? I've pinned my peplum. So now I'll take this to my sewing machine and stitch on this 1/2 inch seam allowance I left. That's very close to the crinoline, just before the crinoline, just above the crinoline. I'm going to stitch on the lining side. I'm stitching from the lining side so that I'm seeing my crinoline. I'll stitch it all the way to this side, and then I'll turn it out. So I'll show us how to stitch this side, because we'll be removing it from the armhole to stitch the zipper side, that's the center back. So I'm done stitching my peplum, and this is what I have. Can you see? I've also pressed it and everything is coming out well. So you can see, because of our crinoline, can you see the wavy look our peplum has? So this is the first step. Okay, this is the second, and then this is the first step. You can see our peplum came out really beautiful. Can you see? This is what it looks like on the wrong side. Everything is coming out so beautiful. So now the next thing we're going to do is to close up this zip allowance. So you can see our zip allowance here on this side is also open. So I'll come here into the armhole. Take note that we haven't closed the armhole. So from the armhole, I'm going to access it like this and bring it out from the armhole. Can you see? I'll bring out my fabric from the armhole. So when I bring it out from the armhole, I'm going to place them right side facing right side like this. You see? On the lining side. So I'm going to place the lining facing the right side of the fabric this way. So remember that I have 1 inch here. Remember that I have 1 inch where my zipper stops. So I'm just going to place it this way, like this. And see, let me pin it so that it's easier for us. Can you see? So this is it. So I'm pin it this way, and then all the way, and see to the neckline here. So you know it's not going to get to the neckline. Remember that we stitched 3 inches downwards. So I'll just get to the end where my zipper stopped here. Can you see that? So I'm going to stitch it very close to the zipper cloth. Can you see the zipper cloth here? You want to stitch it close to the zipper cloth. Don't just stitch like this. Stitch close to the zipper cloth so that when you open it, everything is neat. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll do that and then fix my basic sleeve and come back and show us the final outcome of our top. Okay, I'm done fixing the basic sleeves, and I went ahead to weave the armhole. I used the setting sleeve method to fix this sleeve, and this is what we have. It's coming out really beautiful. And then the back also, you can see I've closed up the zip area, and this is what we have here. Make sure to sew really close to the zipper so that all we can see is just the zipper teeth, just like we have here. So you can see the reverse side of our top is really looking very beautiful. I'm going to flip it to the right side so that we can see what we have. And this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see how beautiful our peplon is, looking so wavy and nice. So the crinoline has a way of making it really wavy and beautiful. Our shawl collar, everything came out so beautiful. I enjoyed making this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something from it. If you did, please make sure to like this video, share this video with your friends. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section. I will respond to you. And also ensure that you subscribe and put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.